What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And today I'm discussing 7 men that can beat Chris Bumstead at the 2021 or 2022 Classic Physique Olympia. I'm going to go over all their strengths, weaknesses, and where they could actually beat Chris Bumstead. So let's kick it off, and we'll start with Robert Timms, that just won the 2021 Texas Pro. It looked absolutely sensational. It was the best Classic Physique lineup of the year so far, by far, bar none. And he looked absolutely sensational. And he's really a dark horse going into that show as well. Beat out 2 outstanding competitors. And he made a massive transformation from the last time he's on stage. Now, I think it was actually the Olympia back in maybe it was 2018 where he did the Classic Physique. And he looked really great there. But he's made some huge improvements in terms of size and just density and hardness to the muscle. This photo really doesn't even show it to the level that it's actually at as well. Now you can see him here standing next to Austin Carr. He came second in the 212s of that Texas Pro as well. And you can see the structure. He looks absolutely enormous. Now he's actually out angling Austin on this shot as well. So it does make him appear a little bit bigger. But you can just tell the size there. But Austin obviously has thicker legs and more of a vacuum and things like that. And I look at this pose and I go, he doesn't really look all that classic to me in this shot. But then when you see some other front double bicep shots where he's twisting and whatnot, he looks absolutely sensational. So this is not how I think he typically hits that front double bicep. So I definitely don't like seeing him hit this shot this way. But when he hits it sort of a classic way, he looks absolutely amazing. Now let's take a look at the back. Now, when you see his back shot here, it looks almost a little bit similar to Joel Stubbs, who was a former IFBB pro bodybuilder that, really fell down in the leg department, but he had an absolutely fantastic back. And it looks very, very similar in terms of just the whole, I suppose, shape and the size of it as well. Not quite as big as Joel Stubbs, but it's really ridiculous for a classic guy to have a back this big and still fit in the weight category as well. Now, when he's hitting the back double bicep here, now the elbows to me are way too low. He's not leaning back far enough, and it really makes the pose not look classic at all to me. It looks very, very impressive with the amount of muscle and the hardness, but it just doesn't look classic. I'd like to see those, those hands and wrists be pulled back a little bit more and a bit more of an arch to the back. And I think he'd look actually really classic in that case, but maybe he's got too much muscle where he can't actually lean back that far. I'm not too sure. Now, where does he fall down? It's the leg department for Robert Timms, and maybe the way he hits a few shots as well. But really, when you see some of the shots and the way they flow, it's not that big of an issue. And in this show, he's able to beat, Logan Franklin and Steve Laureus, who are 2 of the best guys in Classic Physique out there at the moment. At least what they brought to the stage in this show was, easily top 10 Olympia sort of physique. So very, very impressive. The level of hardness and conditioning that he brings to the stage, that's where he can beat Chris Bumstead. Now, does he beat Chris Bumstead overall? Now, if Chris Bumstead's a little off, maybe. But if Chris Bumstead's at his best, it will be very, very hard to beat him. But I can't wait to see what Robert Timms looks like side by side next to Chris Bumstead. And Ian Valier, he posted up this on his story on Instagram, who's Chris Bumstead's coach as well. And he sees Robert Timms as being the #1 contender against Chris Bumstead at the Classic Physique Olympia this year. Now, Steve Laureus came 3rd in that same show. Looked really good, to be honest. I thought he looked great. Like, he's added more size to his physique. Obviously, still maintained those crazy, crazy lines and the shape. Probably the craziest proportions in Classic Physique right now. Actually, I'd say they're definitely the craziest proportions in Classic Physique right now. Now, he had a little bit of gyno, which may have actually hurt him in this show. Maybe he could have placed 2nd if he didn't have that. And the question is, can he get razor sharp? And can he pose with a bit more, I suppose, enthusiasm, you'd maybe say? Sean Roden sort of had the same thing prior to the 2018 Mr Olympia, where everyone said, he needs to pose a bit harder. He needs to smile. He needs to sort of do these sorts of things to be able to, go to the next level. He did that at that 2018 Mr Olympia, and he won it against Phil Heath. Now, Phil obviously had those gut issues, but that really changed things for Sean Roden, and maybe that could change things for Steve Laureus as well. So if he gets the posing down, comes in a little bit more crisp, this could be an absolute game changer for Steve Laureus, and he does have those crazy proportions that could take out guys that are bigger and maybe even harder than him as well. Logan Franklin came 2nd, obviously, to Robert Timms in that same show, beat out Steve Laureus. I thought it was Logan Franklin's best ever. I thought he looked absolutely sensational. I think that with Logan, when I see him in a lineup, that's when I sort of can pick him apart a little bit. But when he's by himself, you go, oh, this guy could be Classic Physique Olympia. Great lines, poses well, gets in crazy, crazy condition. I think that he just needs to get some more dryness, and maybe his tan needs to be a little bit darker perhaps, but it's really hard to pick him apart when he's standing, by himself on stage. He has a great physique. I think the more time that Logan competes, the higher he's going to place, and I think this physique can definitely place top 5 in the Olympia, and who knows, maybe next year he can actually win that Classic Physique Olympia. The next man on the list is Mike Summerfield. I believe he won a contest in Mexico this year, I think. Don't hold me to that. He has some standout shots. He has a crazy vacuum of that big rib cage, which really is sort of that classic look. Poses really, really well as well. Now, the question on Mike Summerfield is, can he get crisp and dry enough? I believe the contest he did this year was his best ever. I think he was in a really, really good level of conditioning, but he needs to maybe go a little bit extra on top of this to potentially beat a Chris Bumstead. And can he do it? And does he have the structure and the height to actually do that? I think he's got the structure in terms of shape and all that sort of stuff, but does he actually have that sort of size to beat a Chris Bumstead? Let me know what you think in the comments on that. Now, Bryan Jones really shocked a lot of people last year. He competed for the first time as a pro, I believe it was. He won that Classic Physique show, came into the Olympia, came 5th his first go out and looked sensational. Now, for me, Bryan Jones, he has the mass, he has the height, he has the shape, and that's what you need to beat Chris Bumstead. Now, where is his weakness? I think it's stage presence right now. He hasn't had a huge amount of time on stage, I believe. If he can get more confident, pose with some aggression, much like I said with the Steve Laureus, I think that Bryan Jones is a legit contender to that title. And I think really he's much like a Robert Timms, but maybe with a slightly nicer shape as well and a very, very small waist. So I think Bryan Jones is a legit contender for years to come in this Classic Physique Olympia. Peter Moulner, many people are actually forgetting about this guy because he actually qualified for this year's Olympia prior to last year's Olympia. He did want to get a special invite. It didn't happen for Peter, but I think this year coming into the Olympia, many people have forgotten about him, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people, and I think he'll probably place him at top 5 to top 6 in that Olympia. Now, is he good enough to actually beat a Chris Bumstead? He's got very mature muscle. He's got, a very small waist, crazy sort of, I suppose, shape to his physique. He's had to shrink down a little bit to make this Classic Physique, which I think actually might hurt him a little bit. Because when I'm seeing his quads now, I think he's actually in his 40s now. They're not quite looking as crisp and as, I suppose, filled out and round as they used to. That might hurt him a little bit, but overall he looks really, really good. And I'm just wondering if he can actually overcome the height difference and size difference that he has against, guys like Chris Bumstead, Bryan Jones, and Robert Timms. If he can sort of overcome that and, really pose bigger than he actually is, I think that he can make an impact at this Olympia and potentially beat some of these bigger guys. Now, Terrence Ruffin, last year's second place finisher of Mr Olympia in the Classic Physique, probably the best poser on the planet right now. This dude knows how to move. He has, routines that really draw on your emotions pretty much. Like, they're just absolutely amazing. I love the art of posing. I coach posing myself. So when I see a guy like this, representing and doing this on stage, I think that should definitely get points. And I think the Classic Physique, I think they should judge these posing routines because I think part of being classic is posing in a classic manner and not just through the mandatories as well, posing classic through all the poses. So I absolutely love Terrence Ruffin. I'm a huge fan. He's got great shape, balanced physique. Overall, where he does fall down and what might be his weakness is just that overall size and height. Because when he stands next to Chris Bumstead, while he did look great last year, there really wasn't a comparison for me in terms of saying that Terrence Ruffin could beat him unless you counter in that posing routine as well, where you give him a few extra points and you go, oh, it's actually somewhat of a close-ish battle in some regards, because if they do judge the posing routine and give him, the win in the posing routine, maybe it gets him a few points closer, but, I don't think the posing routine should supersede a physique like Chris Bumstead's. But if Terrence Ruffin's able to add more size and continue to get better and better, then you never know, Terrence Ruffin could really shock a few people at this year's Classic Physique Olympia. Now, you might say I'm leaving off a few big names off this list, most notably Bryan Ansley, also Alex Cambronero. There's a whole bunch of really good names I've left off this list. Now, Bryan obviously is a Classic Physique Mr Olympia champion. Came third last year, could have even come second because that's what we thought was sort of going to happen. And he looked great. I thought it was probably his best ever or very, very close to it. But if that's his best ever, if he's sort of limited by that, height and weight cap, then it's going to be very hard for him to get better than he was last year. And I think Chris Bumstead's only getting better. These other tall guys are only getting better. Now, do I think Bryan Ansley can finish second in this Olympia? Absolutely, I do. Do I think he can win? If Chris Bumstead is off. I don't know if Bryan Ansley can actually win that Classic Physique Olympia title back, but let me know what you think in the comments below on that. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below, who do you think is the #1 contender for that 2021 Classic Physique Olympia title, and who do you think can win it over the next couple of years against Chris Bumstead, or does Chris Bumstead have this all tied up for the many years to come? Because honestly, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say Chris Bumstead is going to go on a run and continue to win this Classic Physique Olympia title. But let me know what you think in the comments below on that. If you guys like and appreciate this content, please give this video a thumbs up, smash that like button, also subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding. So for Xavier Wills, Desktop Bodybuilding, we are